Today on the City Insider.
Oh my God, Joe.
911, what's the location?
Yes, sir. Daniel Drive and Old Liberty Park went underwater in a car.
We'll take you behind the scenes to the City of Franklin's response to the historic May 2010 floods.
I said, you know, everything y'all got in this house can be replaced, but nobody can replace either one of you. And I said, it's time to go.
Hello and welcome to the City Insider. On May 1st and 2nd, the City of Franklin, as well as the entire Middle Tennessee region, experienced historic floods. 46 counties have been declared disaster areas by the federal government, including Williamson County. More than 63,000 people have registered for federal emergency management assistance. Here in Franklin, many people were caught by surprise as the floodwaters rose.
911, where's your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. The water's atop of cars right now. We're at Verizon and Sprint Furniture on Mallory Lane. None of us can get out to the street at all. There's a lot of cars that soon will be underwater.
Okay, is there anybody in the car?
Yes, ma'am. We're all in our cars. We had to vacate the furniture store, and there's one car, the water's almost to the top of it down in the front parking lot right now. And we can't get out anyway. We've tried all the exits, and the water's too deep. There's probably maybe 50 to 100 or more of us up in this area.
The City of Franklin Police Dispatch received 200 emergency calls May 1st. The average number is usually 27.
Around 2 p.m., we started receiving a lot of additional calls in reference to flooding. Around the same time, the city went under a tornado warning.
That's my TV. Huh?
Can you get out?
No, we can't get out. Please help us.
All right, stay on the line with me.
Okay. Oh my God. We have dogs in the car too.
Okay, what I need
We
to
thought we
do...
could make it, but we were wrong. I'm sorry.
Dispatch worked to get in more staff to handle the call volume.
Trying to keep it all balanced was a real challenge for all the dispatchers that were on.
The City Streets Department was the first on the scene as the high waters made several roads impassable.
In all my years being in and around the city of Franklin, being a resident here, I've never experienced the amount of rainfall that we had on the 1st of May, 2010. The rains just kept coming and getting heavier and heavier, and we wound up closing somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 35 streets over that entire weekend.
Meanwhile, the city leadership team was working behind the scenes to communicate with the public and stay up to date with county and state officials.
As the rains continued to build from Saturday into Sunday, it really became more of a bigger flood issue, and we needed to look at larger responses and long-term recovery efforts, etc. And that's when we started to call in the whole of our city leadership team and to start have discussions about both what we do for immediate responses as well as what our next actions would be to help people recover and return to normal as quickly as possible. One of the interesting things we ran into is just the importance of continuing to communicate with our citizens, and we did that in about every way we could think of, from going on radio and TV to also using Facebook, Twitter, using our website, setting up a phone number that people could call into and get updates, and really just trying to reach citizens any way we could to help provide them with good information.
Franklin 911, where's the emergency? I just wanted to be sure that someone had reported that there's 2 cars stuck underwater. We don't know if there's anybody in them or not. We just got off of I-65 on East Moore Lane. I can't tell if anybody's in the car or not.
Franklin's police and fire rescue teams were working around the clock to rescue folks across the city.
We were doing water rescues. We were taking people from their vehicles that had climbed on top of their vehicles and their cars were stalled out near Cool Springs area off of Mallory Lane. every type of call you can imagine, and still you had your routine fire calls, your fire alarm calls, and your chest pains or heart attacks or medical calls going on. We sent some people over to Academy Sports, and they procured us a couple of boats to use, and it really helped us save a lot of people in this community. This is what we live for, is to help other people during their time of need.
Deputy Fire Chief Mike Culberson says one rescue stood out for him.
It was in Fieldstone, and it was mid-afternoon, probably Sunday, and it was an older couple. I would say it was probably in their 70s, late 70s, and you know, we got up to the door, and they were worried about, you know, furniture and personal items that you might say, and finally I looked at them both, me and Engineer Richard Hashley, and I said, you know, everything I've got in this house can be replaced, but nobody can replace either one of you. And I said, it's time to go. And they looked at one another, and you know, they said, he's right. And in the boat they went, and we got them out in a hurry.
Early Monday morning, the worst happened when a fire rocked one of Franklin's most well-known and flooded neighborhoods. Firefighters worked in the dark and in 4 feet of water to contain the fire.
We had one structure that was on fire, and the fire was impinging on the structures on each side of it. And our crews were heroically standing out in 4 feet of water up to their waist, fighting these fires, and it was extraordinary. I'd never seen anything like it in my 37 years. The crews did a phenomenal job, and this was after those crews had been out in the field all day long and rescued some 200 or 300 people out of the Fieldstone Farms community and worked hard all day. Then we went over into River Landing subdivision and rescued 82 people out in the county, and those crews assisted with that operation. And so, you know, it was a tireless effort on their part, and they're all to be commended.
The Franklin Police Department also played a pivotal role, not only in dispatch, but out on the streets, keeping people safe from flooded areas.
At any given time, we had nearly 30 officers on the road. We were used in a variety of capacities, from closing off streets that had been closed due to flooding, to actually having to deal with people who were out jet skiing in the Harpeth River where it had overflown. The fact that we had 30 officers available really allowed us to do a variety of things. It allowed us to safeguard property that had been affected by the flood, allowed us to assist motorists who had become stranded in the waters, and really to be extremely visible to the community. We wanted them to know that we were there if they needed us.
Close to 14 inches fell on May 1st and 2nd, shattering previous records. The Harpeth River crested at 35.1 feet Sunday, May 2nd, with a flood stage of 30 feet. The last time it reached that level was 1948. Franklin Fire rescued close to 400 people, and more than 440 structures were damaged.
The storm that we experienced on May 1st and May 2nd had a tremendous impact. It was literally a historic event. It exceeded the flood estimates and storm estimates that you see for an over 1,000-year event. So we responded to something we may never see again in our lifetime. We don't know. It will have implications for us going forward as we learn from it and do better. We think our city organization responded tremendously. We saw the community respond to one another and step up and help friends and neighbors and strangers alike. Everyone stepped up to help one another, and that was a great experience to see that happen. As we go forward, we will continue to learn from the experience and be ready next time. It may not be a flood, it may be some other event, but we want to be ready to serve our citizens, meet them in a time of need, and help continue to provide excellent services and help people return and recover to normal life when something like this happens.
Once the floodwaters started to recede, the operation turned from search and rescue to recovery. Monique McCullough has more from that perspective.
Melissa, I'm here at Fieldstone Farms where an explosion due to the floods destroyed one home and badly damaged this home behind me. The recovery efforts were a coordinated effort from the beginning, with the city's leadership team meeting twice a day to update the group and work out the best way to help the citizens of Franklin and get the city back in shape.
The first step in the recovery process was helping residents to clean up the flood debris.
We've been picking up a lot of people's stuff. They've lost everything. I mean, they've lost completely everything. just household stuff. They've been having to re-tear the whole house out and start all over.
Crews from the city's streets, parks, and water management departments all pitched in to help the solid waste department clean up the massive amounts of debris. Seeing the victims of the flood had a profound effect on city employees.
So we go back to Fieldstone for the second day, and it was worse than it was the first day. So we go down there, and some little lady, girl, young woman, she was down cleaning out her house herself. And she come up to me, of course, I feel sorry for people. So I reached over and hugged her, and she shed a few tears right there with her. And I told her, I said, sis, I said, if you can get it out here, I said, we'll pick it up. I said, we'll keep coming till we get it picked up.
The solid waste department collected a record amount of debris over the 7-week period, totaling close to 1,300 tons.
For us, our staff was not only surprised but shocked, but then they took great pride in being able to help folks, help them get cleaned up, help them, protect public health, as well as give them a little light at the end of the tunnel that, hey, part of their work, had been taken care of and was gone from curbside, and they were actually able to move on with their life or move on to the next step, whatever the next step was for them.
During the floods, water reached peak levels for the water management department. A state of emergency was issued and water restrictions were mandatory for about a week after the flood.
The event was remarkable. The facilities we have actually did quite well during the event. We had one facility that was impacted more so than the others. Staff worked round the clock to ensure that the wastewater collection system and treatment facility was working, as well as the drinking water and drinking water plant. As you know, we had gone on restrictions for a period of it was about a week long, and the Franklin facilities did, as I said, pretty well. But if you look at a regional scope, there's a lot of utilities that were having some trouble, and that was recognized by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, and thereby they, proposed this drinking water restriction on us.
The next stop for homeowners was Building and Neighborhood Services to assess the damage and help with applications for federal aid.
Well, the Building and Neighborhood Services Department has always been charged with watching over the floodplain in the city of Franklin. So we were out actually on Saturday afternoon watching the floodwaters rise with all the heavy rain.
The City of Franklin offered free building permits to residents affected by the flood to help speed up the recovery process.
After the floodwaters went down, our staff was actually on the site helping the individuals monitor how high the waters went inside their dwelling units or their commercial establishments. During this time, we made initial assessments and came back to the office, recorded our information. Then, as the waters went completely down, we went out again to all of the establishments, dwellings, which totaled approximately 465 locations.
Thank you all for coming, and it's our pleasure to serve you and to help you in what is a very, very tough time. But what we've learned...
The city also worked closely with FEMA and held a community meeting on May 10th with FEMA and the Small Business Administration to help residents with the federal assistance programs.
The cooperation was great from the upper level, and later on Thursday, a lot of people from FEMA started pouring in. And there was a small meeting on Thursday afternoon at Fieldstone Farms that was put together, really coordinated by the Fieldstone Farms people, and it was well attended. And then on Monday night, we had our big meeting, and we had over 500 residents there. There's a lot of coordination between the FEMA people, TEMA people, SBA people, and the city people. Lots of work going on, a lot of frustration, but everybody was trying to get the answers out to people in the community.
The city team stepped up with hundreds of hours of voluntary overtime to get the city back in shape and to help one another.
It's just been a great example of teamwork and people stepping up, and like I said before, doing whatever it takes. Sort of the can-do attitude of what do we need to do, let's do it, and people have moved to react quickly and get out there and help citizens and help make sure the community stayed safe as well. So it's been an impressive response, I think, to the initial event, but it will have repercussions for months to come as we continue to work with residents and find ways to address the needs they have as well.
And citizens have been very appreciative of the efforts of the City of Franklin.
People have just had an outpouring of thanks and support for what everybody has done. But one of the great things that citizens have done is helped one another. Is they've stepped up and found a way to help a friend, a neighbor, a stranger. It didn't matter. They saw a need and they stepped up to help them.
When we come back, we'll show you the damages to the city's parks and how the volunteers pitched in to help put one of our most popular parks back together for the children of Franklin.
Blue Bag Recycling began July 12th. The blue bags will be picked up on your regular collection day each week. You can recycle paper, including paperback books, magazines, newspapers, and junk mail. Cans, both steel and aluminum. Cardboard, all food boxes and moving boxes. Please break down the larger boxes that do not fit in the bag and place the flattened box under your blue bags. Plastics 1 through 7, but no foam, please, and also no glass. You can take your glass to the Williamson County Convenience Centers. This is a free service of the Franklin Solid Waste Department. The only cost is the blue bag from your local retailer, including Sam's and Costco and most grocery and hardware stores. There is no limit to the amount of blue bags you can place at your curb with your roll-out container, and the bags will be picked up the same day as your normal trash collection day.
One of the hardest hit areas in Franklin was our city park system, sustaining close to $500,000 in damage. Paige Cruz has more from the Parks Department.
Melissa, several of our city parks were damaged in the floods, with Fieldstone Athletic Fields here and Pinkerton Park receiving the most damage.
The waters from the Harpeth rose fast on May 1st and 2nd, totally submerging one of the city's most popular children's park, Pinkerton. At storm's end, the park was completely underwater.
It was amazing. That's the only word I've never seen a flood. I've seen snow and I've seen other hurricanes in my lifetime, being from the south and from the coast area. But to see water rise that quickly, it was at the entrance of Pinkerton. It was at the, it had consumed, and that's the only word to say, with Fieldstone, the full fencing, and it was, the only things you could see at Fieldstone were the top of the lights that were used for security lights at the tip top of the building. And so that was just amazing as the rain was continuing to come down. It looked like a war zone. The fencing, these fields are used by adults, so they're adult softball fields, over 300-foot fencing. Backstops were down. The fencing looked like it was completely meshed, like what you would see in a war zone, where they've wrapped the fabric through the fencing. It was completely covered. We had tractor tires, huge trees. One of the things with Fieldstone, unlike the other parks, 3 sides of it is basically surrounded by the river. So we had flood waters, a major flood come through that area.
Shortly after the floods, the city set up a volunteer hotline. Hundreds of people called in with offers to volunteer or help those in need. The Parks Department was able to put those volunteers to work on May 15th to rebuild Pinkerton Park. Hundreds showed up to clean up the playgrounds, mulch, and more.
And we had over 200 volunteers come out for that day. Everyone was in just great spirits. And the greatest thing was we had the Red Cross come out because we knew we'd have a lot of volunteers to be able to bring food. We actually had to turn them away halfway through so that they could go into Franklin, into the residential area, because we had so many people bring in food, beverages, anything that anyone could ever need. We had just Sunday school groups baking pies and people cooking hamburgers at their house and just say, listen, I could only bring 15, but will that help? We had an overwhelming amount of generosity, and we can't say thank you enough. We were able to actually open that park by the end of the day, so it was a wonderful outpouring of our community.
Fieldstone would take more work and is scheduled to open in September. Most of the other parks received some damage, but were not as deeply affected. The Parks Department appreciated the support of the city and the citizens of Franklin.
Once most of the cleanup was done and the city staff's schedule was getting back to normal, the city held an appreciation luncheon for staff.
Just know we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything you've done and how much you do and how much you care about this community every day.
Today is a day of celebration to recognize the employees that are employed by the City of Franklin for their tireless efforts to help our residents who were affected by the terrible floodwaters that occurred a couple weeks ago.
It was a time for fun and games and to celebrate the responsiveness of our city staff after an amazing emergency response and recovery period.
It's been very overwhelming, and it makes me proud to have colleagues such as them that wanted to work more than their physical abilities would let them. The initial days of the flood, the employees were out from 10 to 12, 14 hours or more, and didn't even want to go home or take a nap. And we had many employees sleeping at City Hall and in our fire stations, just trying to catch a couple hours of rest so they could go out and help some of our residents again.
You know, it's been fabulous. We started out on Saturday and Sunday saving lives, and on Monday we started picking up trash and doing a lot of that, and now we're down to some of the smaller problems that we have. But it's been a effort that has been fabulous by all employees, and they've worked hard. You know, we had people volunteering for overtime, and we didn't even need them to come to work sometimes. So the communities responded to them, to the employees a lot. Everywhere I go, people are just saying thank you so much for the stuff that you've done. And of course, it's not me or Eric or any of the top administration staff. It's the guys that are sitting here and ladies that are eating hamburgers a day that we're really celebrating their efforts.
I think our response was remarkable. I can't count the number of phone calls and emails that I've gotten complimenting the city staff and how they have responded. Makes me proud to be part of Franklin and proud to be part of Team Franklin. They just did an amazing job. It just shows you what a dedicated and conscientious staff that we have here in Franklin.
For many, the flood of 2010 will stick with them for a very long time.
Yes, you can call my wife and ask her how I feel about stuff like this. It hurts. It hurts. I can't help it. You know, I can't help it at all, but just to help somebody and see their face, what you're doing for them, you want to do more, but you can't.
It has taken months and may take years for many residents to recover from this historic flood. The City of Franklin employees played a pivotal role in helping citizens recover. Thanks for watching the City Insider. We'll see you next time.